You woke up this morning and did what you do every morning. You went straight into your day. You checked your phone. You made coffee. You started working. You did not think about it. You just did it. But in those first moments after waking, you missed something that most people do not even know exists. You missed the opportunity to rebuild your dopamine system for the entire day. During the night, while you slept, your body went through a profound neurobiological process. Your melatonin was metabolized. Your cortisol began to rise to prepare you for the day. Your dopamine was synthesized. Your body was ready to receive critical information. Is it day or is it night? But you did not give your body that information. You woke up in a dark room. Or you took coffee immediately. Or you checked your social media under artificial light. And your body remained confused. Your circadian rhythm was not synchronized. Your dopamine was not optimized. Your focus for the entire day was compromised, and you never knew why. This is the tragedy of modern life. We have access to the most powerful biological tool for optimizing our focus, our motivation, our discipline, our mood, our sleep. And we ignore it every single day. That tool is sunlight. Specifically, sunlight in the morning. Specifically, the first 30 minutes to 2 hours after waking. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford University and one of the world's leading experts in behavioral neurobiology, has spent years researching the relationship between light exposure and dopamine production. His findings are revolutionary in their simplicity. The exposure to natural sunlight in the morning is not optional. It is not a luxury. It is a biological mechanism that determines whether your focus will be deep or fragmented, whether your energy will be sustainable or will crash in the afternoon, whether your discipline will feel natural or will require constant willpower. Most people misunderstand this. They think that morning light is just nice, that it makes you feel better, that it is good for your mood. But this misses the actual neurobiological mechanism entirely. Morning sunlight is not about feeling good. Morning sunlight is about rebuilding your dopamine system at the neurological level. It is about synchronizing your circadian rhythm. It is about setting your dopamine baseline for the entire day. Here is the mechanism. Your eyes contain specialized cells called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells are not involved in vision. They are involved in circadian rhythm regulation. When light enters your eyes, particularly blue light from the morning sun, these cells fire. They send a signal to your suprachiasmatic nucleus, a small region in your brain that controls your circadian rhythm. That signal says, it is morning. It is time to be awake. It is time to be alert. It is time to mobilize. When your suprachiasmatic nucleus receives this signal, it triggers a cascade of neurobiological events. Dopamine is synthesized and released. Norepinephrine is released, improving your alertness and attention. Serotonin begins to be synthesized, improving your mood. Cortisol follows its natural pattern. Your entire nervous system receives the information it needs to be optimally functional for the day. But if you do not receive this signal, if you spend your first hours after waking in dark environments or under artificial light, your body does not receive this critical information. Your circadian rhythm remains dysregulated. Your dopamine baseline remains low. Your entire day is compromised. Huberman explains that this morning light exposure is so powerful that it determines your dopamine levels not just for the morning, but for the entire day. If you receive adequate morning light, your dopamine baseline is high. You have dopamine reserves available for focus and motivation throughout the day. Your capacity for sustained attention is present. Your discipline feels natural. But if you do not receive adequate morning light, if you wake up in darkness and remain in dark or artificially lit environments, your dopamine baseline is low. You spend the entire day dopamine depleted. You desperately seek external sources of dopamine. You reach for coffee. You check your phone constantly. You seek stimulation. You cannot focus because your dopamine system was never optimized in the first place. This is why so many people struggle with focus despite having good sleep, despite taking supplements, despite trying productivity techniques. They have optimized everything except the one thing that matters most, their morning light exposure. They have built the entire structure of their day on a foundation that was never set. The solution is deceptively simple. In the first 30 minutes to 2 hours after waking, Expose yourself to sunlight. That is it. No technology. No complexity. No expense. Just sunlight. Let the light from the sun enter your eyes. Allow your intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells to fire. Allow your suprachiasmatic nucleus to receive the signal it is waiting for. Allow your dopamine to be synthesized naturally, biologically, powerfully. This single protocol, morning sunlight exposure, is so effective, so fundamental, so neurobiologically powerful that Huberman recommends it as the first thing you should do before anything else. Not coffee. Not checking email. Not exercise. Sunlight first. Everything else follows. The reason most people do not do this is simple. It seems too easy. Our brains have been trained to seek complexity. We want a supplement, a device, a sophisticated technique. We want something that feels difficult because we believe that difficulty is correlated with effectiveness. But neuroscience does not care about difficulty. Neuroscience only cares about what works. And morning sunlight works. It is powerful. It is free. It is available to almost everyone. And almost nobody does it. The science of how morning sunlight rebuilds your dopamine system is fascinating. It is not just that sunlight feels good. It is that sunlight triggers specific neurobiological processes that have been optimized over hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. Your body was built to respond to sunlight. And when you provide that stimulus, your body responds predictably and powerfully. The key is understanding what happens neurobiologically when you do not receive morning sunlight. When you wake up in darkness or under artificial light, your body does not receive the circadian signal it expects. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus does not fire. Your dopamine is not synthesized at the level it should be. Your nervous system remains in a state of uncertainty. Is it day or night? This uncertainty cascades through your entire physiology. Your cortisol pattern becomes irregular. Your melatonin production at night becomes disrupted. Your sleep quality suffers. Your mood becomes unstable. Your ability to focus becomes compromised. And all of this stems from a single factor. Your body did not receive the morning light signal it has been waiting for since you woke up. Huberman points out that this is why people who work night shifts or who have irregular schedules often struggle so dramatically with focus and mood. Not because their work is hard, but because their circadian rhythm is chronically dysregulated. Their bodies never receive a consistent signal about when day is and when night is. Their dopamine systems never synchronize. Their focus systems never optimize. The reverse is equally true. People who consistently expose themselves to morning sunlight report dramatic improvements in focus, mood, energy, and sleep quality. Not because they are different people, but because their circadian rhythm is synchronized. Their dopamine baseline is optimized. Their nervous system receives the signal it needs to function properly. Here is what happens when you implement the morning sunlight protocol consistently. In the first few days, you might not notice much. But within your brain, changes are already happening. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus is learning. Your body is beginning to synchronize to the solar cycle. Your dopamine production is beginning to stabilize. By the end of the first week, you notice something shift. You wake up more alert. You feel less desperate for coffee, or coffee works better because your physiology is more synchronized. You feel more present. Your energy is more stable. These are not placebo effects. These are measurable neurobiological changes. By the second week, the effects become undeniable. Your focus improves. Tasks that felt impossible suddenly feel manageable. Your work feels less like pushing a boulder uphill and more like moving with the momentum of your own neurobiology. Your discipline feels more natural. You do not have to force focus. It is just there. By the third week, something remarkable happens. Your sleep improves. And this is where many people do not make the connection. They think, I exposed myself to sunlight in the morning, so my sleep improved? How does that work? But the mechanism is clear. When your circadian rhythm is synchronized by morning light, your body naturally produces melatonin better at night. Your sleep becomes deeper. You wake up more rested. By the fourth week and beyond, you have rebuilt your circadian rhythm. Your dopamine system is optimized. Your focus is deep. Your motivation is sustainable. Your mood is stable. Your sleep is restorative. All from a single protocol: morning sunlight exposure. But here is what Huberman emphasizes: this is not a one-time intervention. This is not something you do once and then forget about. This is something you need to do consistently. Every day. Your body learns patterns through repetition. If you expose yourself to morning sunlight every day, your body learns to expect it. Your circadian rhythm becomes strongly synchronized. Your dopamine baseline becomes strongly optimized. But if you expose yourself to morning sunlight for a week and then go back to waking up in darkness, your circadian rhythm begins to desynchronize. Your dopamine baseline begins to drop. You lose the benefits. This is why consistency is everything. The timing matters too. This exposure needs to happen in the first 30 minutes to 2 hours after waking. If you wake up at 7 in the morning and expose yourself to sunlight at 11 in the morning, you have missed the window. Your body was waiting for the signal in the first hours. When the signal comes late, the effect is diminished. The duration depends on how bright it is. On a clear, sunny day, 30 minutes is often sufficient. On a cloudy day, you might need an hour or more. The goal is to get a significant amount of light, particularly blue light from the sun, to reach your eyes. You do not need to stare at the sun directly. In fact, you should not. You just need to be in the sunlight. Let the light reach your eyes naturally. Huberman also emphasizes that morning sunlight is particularly important for people who live in high latitudes where the sun is low on the horizon, or who live in climates where sunlight is scarce. These people need even more exposure to morning light to achieve the same circadian synchronization. But the principle is the same. Morning light is the key. Many people ask, what if I cannot get morning sunlight? What if I live in a climate where the sun does not rise early, or where clouds are constant, or where I work indoors? Huberman's answer is practical. Get as much light as possible in the morning. If you cannot get direct sunlight, get indirect sunlight through a window. If that is not possible, use a light therapy box that mimics the spectrum of natural sunlight. But understand that natural sunlight is optimal. Nothing replaces it perfectly. The key principle is this: your body has been waiting for millions of years for morning light. It has been built to respond to morning light. When you provide that stimulus, your body responds. When you do not, your body falters. It is not about willpower or discipline or motivation. It is about biology. Provide the stimulus your body needs, and your dopamine system optimizes itself. Everything else follows. The science of how morning sunlight rebuilds your dopamine system is fascinating. It is not just that sunlight feels good. It is that sunlight triggers specific neurobiological processes that have been optimized over hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. Your body was built to respond to sunlight. And when you provide that stimulus, your body responds predictably and powerfully. The key is understanding what happens neurobiologically when you do not receive morning sunlight. When you wake up in darkness or under artificial light, your body does not receive the circadian signal it expects. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus does not fire. Your dopamine is not synthesized at the level it should be. Your nervous system remains in a state of uncertainty. Is it day or night? This uncertainty cascades through your entire physiology. Your cortisol pattern becomes irregular. Your melatonin production at night becomes disrupted. Your sleep quality suffers. Your mood becomes unstable. Your ability to focus becomes compromised. And all of this stems from a single factor. Your body did not receive the morning light signal it has been waiting for since you woke up. Huberman points out that this is why people who work night shifts or who have irregular schedules often struggle so dramatically with focus and mood. Not because their work is hard, but because their circadian rhythm is chronically dysregulated. Their bodies never receive a consistent signal about when day is and when night is. Their dopamine systems never synchronize. Their focus systems never optimize. The reverse is equally true. People who consistently expose themselves to morning sunlight report dramatic improvements in focus, mood, energy, and sleep quality. Not because they are different people, but because their circadian rhythm is synchronized. Their dopamine baseline is optimized. Their nervous system receives the signal it needs to function properly. Here is what happens when you implement the morning sunlight protocol consistently. In the first few days, you might not notice much. But within your brain, changes are already happening. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus is learning. Your body is beginning to synchronize to the solar cycle. Your dopamine production is beginning to stabilize. By the end of the first week, you notice something shift. You wake up more alert. You feel less desperate for coffee, or coffee works better because your physiology is more synchronized. You feel more present. Your energy is more stable. These are not placebo effects. These are measurable neurobiological changes. By the second week, the effects become undeniable. Your focus improves. Tasks that felt impossible suddenly feel manageable. Your work feels less like pushing a boulder uphill and more like moving with the momentum of your own neurobiology. Your discipline feels more natural. You do not have to force focus. It is just there. By the third week, something remarkable happens. Your sleep improves. And this is where many people do not make the connection. They think, I exposed myself to sunlight in the morning, so my sleep improved? How does that work? But the mechanism is clear. When your circadian rhythm is synchronized by morning light, your body naturally produces melatonin better at night. Your sleep becomes deeper. You wake up more rested. By the fourth week and beyond, you have rebuilt your circadian rhythm. Your dopamine system is optimized. Your focus is deep. Your motivation is sustainable. Your mood is stable. Your sleep is restorative. All from a single protocol, morning sunlight exposure. But here is what Huberman emphasizes. This is not a one-time intervention. This is not something you do once and then forget about. This is something you need to do consistently. Every day. Your body learns patterns through repetition. If you expose yourself to morning sunlight every day, your body learns to expect it. Your circadian rhythm becomes strongly synchronized. Your dopamine baseline becomes strongly optimized. But if you expose yourself to morning sunlight for a week and then go back to waking up in darkness, your circadian rhythm begins to desynchronize. Your dopamine baseline begins to drop. You lose the benefits. This is why consistency is everything. The timing matters too. This exposure needs to happen in the first 30 minutes to 2 hours after waking. If you wake up at 7 in the morning and expose yourself to sunlight at 11 in the morning, you have missed the window. Your body was waiting for the signal in the first hours. When the signal comes late, the effect is diminished. The duration depends on how bright it is. On a clear, sunny day, 30 minutes is often sufficient. On a cloudy day, you might need an hour or more. The goal is to get a significant amount of light, particularly blue light from the sun, to reach your eyes. You do not need to stare at the sun directly. In fact, you should not. You just need to be in the sunlight. Let the light reach your eyes naturally. Huberman also emphasizes that morning sunlight is particularly important for people who live in high latitudes where the sun is low on the horizon, or who live in climates where sunlight is scarce. These people need even more exposure to morning light to achieve the same circadian synchronization. But the principle is the same. Morning light is the key. Many people ask, what if I cannot get morning sunlight? What if I live in a climate where the sun does not rise early, or where clouds are constant, or where I work indoors? Huberman's answer is practical. Get as much light as possible in the morning. If you cannot get direct sunlight, get indirect sunlight through a window. If that is not possible, use a light therapy box that mimics the spectrum of natural sunlight. But understand that natural sunlight is optimal. Nothing replaces it perfectly. The key principle is this: your body has been waiting for millions of years for morning light. It has been built to respond to morning light. When you provide that stimulus, your body responds. When you do not, your body falters. It is not about willpower or discipline or motivation. It is about biology. Provide the stimulus your body needs, and your dopamine system optimizes itself. Everything else follows. Now let us get specific about the protocol. This is where theory becomes practice. This is where you actually implement what Huberman recommends. And the protocol is so simple that it almost seems like it cannot be real. Here is what you do. When you wake up, within the first 30 minutes to 2 hours, go outside. Or sit on a balcony or patio where you can receive sunlight. Or sit by a large window where sunlight enters. The goal is to allow sunlight to reach your eyes. You do not need to stare at the sun. In fact, you should not. Staring at the sun can damage your eyes. You just need to be in the sunlight. Let the light reach your eyes naturally as you look around. How long should you stay outside? That depends on how bright it is. Huberman provides specific guidelines. On a clear day with the sun relatively high in the sky, 10 to 20 minutes might be sufficient. On a cloudy day, 30 minutes to an hour might be necessary. On a very cloudy or overcast day, you might need up to 2 hours. The key is to get enough light exposure to trigger your intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. These cells respond to brightness and to the specific blue wavelengths present in natural sunlight. When they receive adequate stimulation, they fire. They send a signal to your suprachiasmatic nucleus. Your circadian rhythm is synchronized. You can do something while you are exposed to sunlight. You can drink coffee. You can read. You can think. You can meditate. You can exercise. The point is not to be in a state of meditation or deep focus. The point is simply to receive the sunlight. Let your eyes receive the light naturally. One important note: do not wear sunglasses. Sunglasses filter light. They reduce the intensity of light reaching your eyes. If you wear sunglasses, you reduce the effectiveness of the protocol. You want the light to reach your eyes directly. This does not mean staring at the sun. It means being in sunlight without barriers between the sun and your eyes. Huberman also emphasizes that the specific wavelength matters. Natural sunlight contains a full spectrum, including blue light. Blue light is particularly important for circadian rhythm regulation. Artificial light, even bright artificial light, does not contain the same spectrum as natural sunlight. This is why you cannot simply turn on a bright lamp and get the same effect. You need actual sunlight. However, Huberman acknowledges that not everyone can get natural sunlight every morning. If you live in a climate where sunlight is scarce, or if you work indoors in an environment that makes morning sunlight difficult, there are alternatives. Light therapy boxes that emit light in the blue spectrum can help. They are not as effective as natural sunlight, but they are significantly better than nothing. The timing of the protocol is critical. This exposure needs to happen in the first 1 to 2 hours after waking. Your circadian rhythm is most responsive to light in this window. If you delay sunlight exposure until later in the morning or early afternoon, you miss the window of maximum circadian responsiveness. Your synchronization is less effective. Your dopamine optimization is less powerful. This is why Huberman recommends doing this first, before anything else. Not after coffee. Not after checking email. Not after a shower. First. The first thing you do after waking is expose yourself to sunlight. This is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of this. Many people ask, can I still drink coffee while doing this? The answer is yes. In fact, Huberman suggests that morning sunlight exposure combined with coffee is optimal. Here is why. When you expose yourself to sunlight, your dopamine begins to be synthesized. When you drink coffee, caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, making you feel more alert. The combination is powerful. You get dopamine from the light and increased alertness from the caffeine. The timing works well together. What about exercise? Can you exercise while exposed to morning sunlight? The answer is yes, but with a caveat. Morning sunlight exposure does not require intense exercise. A walk outside in the morning is perfect. You get sunlight exposure and gentle movement. Both contribute to your well-being and your dopamine optimization. But the sunlight exposure is the key. The exercise is secondary. The protocol also has a cascading effect on your entire day. When you synchronize your circadian rhythm with morning sunlight, your cortisol pattern becomes optimized. Cortisol naturally rises in the morning, preparing you for activity. When this pattern is synchronized by morning light, your entire hormonal cascade becomes more efficient. Your energy is higher. Your alertness is greater. Your readiness for action is present. As the day progresses, your circadian rhythm, now synchronized by morning light, continues to regulate your physiology. In the afternoon, your body begins to wind down. Your cortisol naturally decreases. Your melatonin begins to rise. Your energy naturally decreases in the evening. Your body naturally becomes ready for sleep. But this only happens if your circadian rhythm has been synchronized by morning light. If you do not get morning light, your circadian rhythm remains dysregulated. Your cortisol pattern becomes irregular. Your afternoon energy crashes unpredictably. Your evening remains stimulated even as you try to sleep. Your entire day is suboptimal. This is why Huberman places such emphasis on morning light exposure. It is not just about waking up alert. It is about optimizing your entire circadian physiology for the entire day and into the night. One simple intervention, 30 minutes of morning sunlight, sets the tone for everything that follows. The research is clear on this. Studies show that people who get consistent morning sunlight exposure have better focus, better mood, better energy, better sleep quality, and better overall well-being compared to people who do not. This is not because they are different people. It is because their circadian rhythm is synchronized. Their dopamine system is optimized. Their nervous system is receiving the signal it was built to receive. Now here is the critical part that most people miss. This protocol works best when combined with other optimization strategies. Morning light sets the foundation. But if you then go back to waking in darkness tomorrow, if you stay up late looking at screens, if you consume caffeine late in the day, you compromise the benefits of morning light. The protocol works best when it is part of a comprehensive approach to circadian rhythm optimization. But if you have to choose one intervention, if you can only do one thing to improve your focus and dopamine and sleep and mood and energy, morning sunlight exposure is the one. It is that powerful. It is that foundational. It is that effective. Let us talk about what actually happens when you implement this protocol consistently. Not theory. Real, measurable changes that occur in your brain and body when you commit to morning sunlight exposure. The first week is often unremarkable. You wake up, you go outside, you expose yourself to sunlight. You might feel a little better. You might notice that coffee hits differently. But nothing dramatic. Your brain is learning, but the changes are subtle. You might not notice them consciously. But inside your brain, something important is happening. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus is receiving consistent signals. Your body is learning. Every morning, light arrives. Your body is beginning to synchronize to this pattern. Your intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells are firing regularly. Your dopamine synthesis is beginning to stabilize. The foundation is being laid. By the end of the second week, you begin to notice real changes. You wake up more naturally. You do not feel as groggy. You reach for coffee and it works better, not because coffee has changed, but because your physiology is more responsive. Your energy in the morning is more stable. You feel more present. These are early signs that your circadian rhythm is beginning to synchronize. You also begin to notice something else. Your afternoon energy is more stable. Normally, people crash around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Your dopamine baseline drops. Your focus fragments. You feel exhausted. But when your circadian rhythm is beginning to synchronize through morning light exposure, this afternoon crash is less severe. Your energy is more sustained. You do not need an afternoon coffee to function. Your body is producing the energy you need. By the third week, the changes are undeniable. Your focus improves. Not because you suddenly have better discipline, but because your dopamine system is optimized. Tasks that felt impossible suddenly feel manageable. Work that felt like torture now feels engaging. You can sustain attention on a single task for longer. Your mind wanders less. Your focus is deeper. Your mood improves. And this is separate from focus. Even if you had good focus before, your mood was probably unstable. Now it becomes more stable. You feel more resilient. Small frustrations do not derail you emotionally. You experience more equanimity. Your emotional regulation is better. This is because your entire dopamine system is optimized, and dopamine is involved in emotional regulation. Your sleep improves. And this is where many people notice the most dramatic change. They have been struggling with sleep for months or years. They try sleeping pills. They try supplements. They try white noise machines. Nothing works. Then they start morning sunlight exposure, and within a few weeks, their sleep dramatically improves. They fall asleep more easily. They sleep more deeply. They wake up more rested. They do not know why, but something changed. The reason is circadian synchronization. When your circadian rhythm is synchronized by morning light, your body naturally produces melatonin at the right time in the evening. Your body naturally becomes ready for sleep. Your sleep architecture improves. You spend more time in deep sleep. Your sleep is restorative. By the 4th week, you have established a new baseline. Your dopamine baseline is optimized. Your circadian rhythm is synchronized. Your focus is deep. Your mood is stable. Your energy is sustained throughout the day. Your sleep is restorative. This is not temporary. This is your new normal. You have rebuilt your nervous system. But here's what happens next, and this is critical. If you stop the protocol, if you go back to waking in darkness, if you stop prioritizing morning sunlight, your circadian rhythm begins to desynchronize. Within days, the benefits begin to fade. Your focus begins to fragment. Your mood becomes unstable. Your sleep becomes poor. Your energy crashes. This is why consistency is everything. Morning sunlight exposure is not something you do once. It is something you do every day. Your body needs the signal every day. Your circadian rhythm needs the synchronization every day. If you only do it sometimes, you get inconsistent results. Your body does not know whether to synchronize or not. Your nervous system remains partially dysregulated. This is also why morning sunlight exposure is different from most other protocols. You cannot take it as a supplement once and have it work. You cannot do it once a week and get the benefit. You have to do it consistently. Every single day. This is how your body works. Your circadian rhythm needs constant reinforcement of the day-night cycle. Huberman also points out something important. Morning sunlight exposure is not just about dopamine. It affects your entire physiology. Your cortisol pattern becomes optimized. Your cortisol rises in the morning as it should, preparing you for action. It decreases throughout the day as it should. By evening, it is low enough that you can sleep. Your entire hormonal cascade becomes more efficient. Your immune system becomes stronger. Sleep quality improvements mean your immune system gets better recovery. Your melatonin, which is not just a sleep hormone but also a powerful antioxidant, becomes optimized. Your body can fight infections better. You get sick less often. You recover faster from illness. Your metabolic function improves. People who have regular circadian rhythm synchronization have better metabolic health. They regulate blood sugar better. They manage weight better. They have fewer metabolic disorders. This is not directly about morning light, but about the optimization of circadian rhythm that morning light provides. Your cognitive function improves beyond just focus. Your memory improves. Your learning capacity improves. Your problem-solving ability improves. All of these are dependent on dopamine and on circadian rhythm. When these are optimized, your entire cognitive system functions better. The most important insight is this: all of these improvements come from a single source. Not from supplements. Not from technology. Not from expensive interventions. From free, accessible sunlight. From a simple protocol that takes 30 minutes in the morning. From working with your biology instead of against it. This is why Huberman is so emphatic about this. He has seen the research. He understands the mechanism. He has watched people implement this protocol and transform their lives. Not because they suddenly became different people, but because they provided their bodies with what they have been waiting for. The signal of morning light that optimizes their circadian rhythm and rebuilds their dopamine system. The barrier is not knowledge. Most people know they should get morning sunlight. The barrier is implementation. It requires changing your morning routine. It requires prioritizing this above other things. It requires consistency even when you do not feel like doing it. It requires understanding that this is not optional. This is foundational. There is a moment that comes for most people when they have consistently implemented morning sunlight exposure for several weeks. Usually around week 3 or 4. They wake up one morning and they realize something fundamental has shifted. Not just that they feel better. but that the way their brain works has changed. They notice they can focus on difficult work without their mind wandering. They notice they do not need to force discipline. They notice their mood is stable even when facing challenges. They notice their sleep is deep and restorative. And they realize, this is not temporary improvement. This is a fundamental recalibration of how my brain works. This moment is powerful because it reveals a truth that most people do not understand. Your focus, your discipline, your mood, your sleep, these are not character traits. They are not fixed aspects of who you are. They are neurobiological outputs that depend on your circadian rhythm being synchronized and your dopamine system being optimized. Change the inputs, and the outputs change. This means that if you have struggled with focus your entire life, you might not be broken. You might simply not have been providing your nervous system with the inputs it needs. You might have been waking in darkness. You might have been skipping morning light. You might have been dysregulating your circadian rhythm every single day. And your brain responded by producing poor focus. But when you provide the input your brain needs, morning sunlight, your brain responds by producing good focus. Not because you suddenly became disciplined, but because your nervous system is getting what it was built to receive. This is liberating for many people. It means you are not stuck. It means you do not need to force yourself to have better focus through willpower and motivation. You simply need to give your body what it needs. Morning light. Consistency. Time for your nervous system to recalibrate. The second insight that comes is about the relationship between morning light and all the other optimization strategies. Morning light is foundational, but it is not sufficient on its own. If you get morning light but then stay up late looking at screens, your circadian rhythm will be partially dysregulated. If you get morning light but then avoid exercise, your dopamine system will not be fully optimized. If you get morning light but then drink caffeine late in the day, your sleep will be disrupted. Morning light is the foundation, but the entire structure matters. Sleep quality matters. Exercise timing matters. Light exposure in the evening matters. Caffeine timing matters. All of these work together to create a nervous system that is fully optimized. But here is the hierarchy that Huberman emphasizes. Morning light comes first. If you can only do one thing, do morning light. It has such a powerful effect on your circadian rhythm that it begins to improve everything else. Your sleep improves because your circadian rhythm is synchronized. Your focus improves because your dopamine baseline is optimized. Your mood improves because your entire nervous system is receiving the signal it needs. The third insight is about consistency and persistence. Many people try morning sunlight exposure for a few days or a week. They do not notice dramatic changes immediately. They think, this is not working, and they stop. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how circadian rhythm works. Your circadian rhythm does not change dramatically in days. It takes weeks. Your brain needs time to learn the pattern. Your body needs time to recalibrate. This is why Huberman recommends committing to at least 4 weeks of consistent morning sunlight exposure before evaluating whether it works for you. By 4 weeks, your circadian rhythm has synchronized. Your dopamine system has recalibrated. The benefits are real and measurable. But if you quit after 1 week, you never give your body the opportunity to recalibrate. The fourth insight is about the power of simplicity. In a world of complex biohacks and expensive interventions, morning sunlight is almost embarrassingly simple. But this simplicity is part of what makes it so powerful. It is not something you have to remember to do in a complicated way. You just go outside in the morning. That is it. This simplicity also means it is accessible to almost everyone. You do not need money. You do not need special equipment. You do not need a gym membership. You do not need supplements. You need sunlight and 30 minutes of your morning. And almost everyone has access to that. The fifth insight is about the long-term trajectory of your life when you implement this. Huberman points out that morning sunlight exposure is not just about short-term focus improvement. It is about setting the foundation for long-term brain health, long-term cognitive function, long-term emotional stability. People who consistently get morning sunlight have better sleep throughout their lives. They have better mood regulation throughout their lives. They have better cognitive function throughout their lives. They have better metabolic health. They have better immune function. They age better. Their brains age better. This is not theory. This is what the research shows. Morning sunlight exposure is not optional. It is foundational for long-term health and function. Now, Huberman also addresses something important. What if you live somewhere where morning sunlight is not available? What if you live in a climate where it is dark in the morning? What if it is winter and the sun rises late? What if it is cloudy every day? His answer is practical. Do the best you can. Get outside even on cloudy days. Clouds reduce the brightness but do not eliminate the light. Your circadian system will still respond. If the sun rises late, still go outside as soon as it rises. If you live in a place where sunlight is truly scarce, light therapy boxes can help. They are not as effective as natural sunlight, but they are significantly better than nothing. The key principle is this: provide your body with as much light signal as possible in the early morning. This is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of this. Huberman also emphasizes that morning sunlight exposure should not become another source of stress. You should not obsess about getting exactly 30 minutes. You should not panic if you miss a day. Life happens. You do your best. You get morning light when you can. You prioritize it. But you do not become anxious about it. The goal is to synchronize your circadian rhythm and optimize your dopamine system. You do this through consistent, but not obsessive, morning sunlight exposure. You make it a habit. You do it automatically. It becomes part of your morning routine, like brushing your teeth. And when you do this, when you consistently provide your body with the circadian signal it has been waiting for, your entire life improves. Your focus deepens. Your mood stabilizes. Your sleep becomes restorative. Your energy becomes sustainable. Your discipline becomes natural. Your dopamine system optimizes itself. You are now at a decision point. You understand the science. You understand how morning sunlight rebuilds your circadian rhythm and optimizes your dopamine system. You understand the protocol. You understand the timeline. You understand what your brain and body actually need. But understanding is not action. And action is everything. The question is not whether you understand the relationship between morning light and focus. The question is whether you are willing to live differently based on this understanding. Are you willing to prioritize morning sunlight over sleeping in? Are you willing to go outside in the morning even when it is cold or inconvenient? Are you willing to do this consistently, every single day, for at least 4 weeks before you evaluate whether it is working? This is where most people fail. Not because the science is wrong. Not because the protocol does not work, but because they are not willing to change their behavior. They understand the science intellectually, but they do not implement it consistently. They do it occasionally. They do it when they remember. They do it when it is convenient. And because they do not do it consistently, they do not get the results. But here is what the research shows. If you can commit to morning sunlight exposure for just 4 weeks, if you can prioritize going outside in the morning before anything else, your life will begin to transform. Not because you suddenly became a different person, but because your nervous system received the signal it has been waiting for. Your circadian rhythm synchronized. Your dopamine system optimized. And everything that depends on these, your focus, your mood, your energy, your sleep, improved as a result. The initial commitment is the hardest part. The first 2 weeks will feel like you are doing something extra. Something that takes time. Something that disrupts your normal routine. You will want to sleep in. You will want to skip it on cold days. You will want to check your email before going outside. Every morning will feel like a choice. But by the 3rd week, something shifts. Your body begins to expect morning light. You naturally wake up earlier. You naturally feel drawn to go outside. The behavior becomes less effortful. By the 4th week, morning sunlight exposure has become automatic. You do it without thinking about it. It is just part of who you are now. And at that point, you will look back and barely recognize your former self. The person who could not focus for more than 15 minutes. The person who felt exhausted all the time. The person who struggled with mood instability. The person who could not sleep well. That person is gone. You have been rebuilt. Your nervous system has been recalibrated. Your dopamine system has been optimized. And here is the insight that changes everything. You realize that you were never broken. You were never lacking in discipline or focus or motivation. You were simply operating with a dysregulated circadian rhythm and a suboptimal dopamine system. You were not providing your body with the signal it needed. And your body responded by failing to function optimally. But when you provide the signal, morning sunlight, your body responds by functioning optimally. Not through force, not through willpower, but through biology. Your brain is not your enemy. Your brain is a tool that responds predictably to its inputs. Provide the right inputs, and your brain produces the right outputs. This is why Huberman is so passionate about this. He has seen the research. He understands the mechanism. He has watched thousands of people implement morning sunlight exposure and transform their lives. Not because they suddenly became different people, but because they worked with their own neurobiology instead of against it. The second powerful insight that emerges is about the cascading benefits. Morning sunlight exposure does not just improve your focus. It improves your sleep. It improves your mood. It improves your energy. It improves your immune function. It improves your metabolic health. It improves your cognitive function. All of these benefits come from one intervention: morning sunlight. This is the power of working with your fundamental biology. When you synchronize your circadian rhythm, everything that depends on circadian rhythm function improves. You do not have to fix each problem separately. You fix the foundation, and everything built on top of the foundation improves as well. The third insight is about long-term sustainability. Most productivity hacks are exhausting. You have to remember them. You have to force yourself to do them. You have to resist your natural impulses to maintain them. They are unsustainable. You eventually quit. But morning sunlight exposure is different. It is not effortful. It is not against your nature. It is with your nature. Your body wants circadian synchronization. Your body wants morning light. When you provide it, you are working with your own biology. The behavior becomes sustainable. You can do it for life. And the benefits compound over time. The fourth insight is about the role of simplicity in a complex world. We live in an age of overwhelming complexity. Thousands of productivity systems. Thousands of supplements. Thousands of biohacks. Thousands of things claiming to improve focus. But most of them are not based on fundamental biology. Most of them are not sustainable. Most of them do not work. Morning sunlight exposure is different. It is simple. It is free. It is based on fundamental biology. It is something your ancestors did automatically. It is something your body is built to expect. And it works. This simplicity is not a weakness. It is a strength. Now, Huberman also addresses the question: what if I implement this and it does not work for me? What if I do not see improvements in focus or sleep or mood? His answer is direct. First, give it at least 4 weeks. Your nervous system needs time to recalibrate. Second, make sure you are doing it correctly. Are you getting outside in the morning? Are you doing it within the first 2 hours of waking? Are you avoiding sunglasses? Are you doing it consistently every day? If you are not checking these boxes, you are not implementing the protocol correctly. Third, consider whether other factors might be limiting your progress. If you are still consuming caffeine late in the day, morning light will help but will not fully optimize your sleep. If you are still looking at screens in the evening, morning light will help but will not fully synchronize your circadian rhythm. Morning light is foundational, but the entire system matters. The bottom line is this: morning sunlight exposure is one of the most powerful tools available for optimizing your focus, your mood, your sleep, and your overall well-being. It is free. It is accessible. It is based on fundamental neuroscience. And it works. The question now is simple. Will you do it? Will you prioritize morning sunlight exposure? Will you go outside in the morning before anything else? Will you commit to this for at least 4 weeks? Will you give your nervous system the signal it has been waiting for? These are not rhetorical questions. These are decisions that will determine whether you actually benefit from this knowledge or whether you simply understand it intellectually without implementing it. Start tomorrow if you can. Or start today if it is morning where you are. Set an intention. Tomorrow morning, before checking email, before coffee, before anything else, you will go outside. You will expose yourself to sunlight. You will give your body the signal it needs. You will do this every single day for 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, evaluate. Notice how your focus has changed. Notice how your sleep has changed. Notice how your mood has changed. Notice how your energy has changed. And then ask yourself, was this worth 30 minutes of my morning? Was this worth prioritizing over sleep-in or convenience? The answer, for almost everyone who implements this consistently, is yes. Emphatically yes. Because morning sunlight is not just about focus or sleep or mood. Morning sunlight is about aligning your nervous system with the fundamental rhythms that your brain has been built to follow for millions of years. It is about working with your biology instead of against it. It is about providing your brain with what it needs to function optimally. And when you do this, when you align yourself with these fundamental biological truths, everything changes. Not overnight, but over weeks and months. Your focus deepens. Your discipline becomes natural. Your mood becomes stable. Your sleep becomes restorative. Your life becomes better. This is the power of understanding neuroscience. This is the power of working with your own biology. This is the power of morning sunlight. So the question returns to you, with greater weight now. Not as information, but as invitation. Will you understand the power of morning light? And will you live differently because of it? Will you prioritize morning sunlight? Will you commit to the protocol? Will you give your nervous system what it needs? Will you allow your circadian rhythm to synchronize? Will you allow your dopamine system to optimize? This is where your journey begins. Not with complicated hacks. Not with expensive supplements. But with something simple and free and available to almost everyone. With the sun. With morning light. With the willingness to work with your own biology. And once you do, once you experience what true focus actually feels like when your circadian rhythm is synchronized and your dopamine system is optimized, you will wonder how you ever lived any other way. This is the power of morning sunlight. This is the foundation of focus. This is the beginning.